I've had a small backyard garden nearly every year of my life. In fact, when I'm working with plants, especially tomatoes, the strong smell of the plants and the dirt bring back memories of hot, sticky nights, the melodious sound of ice cream trucks and crickets, and the strong smells of bonfires and fresh mowed grass that gets wet and stays in the air long into the night. The smells of summer, especially tomatoes, also triggers another memory. One not as wholesome and not as welcoming. I take in the scent and travel back easily to a night when I was visited by an unwelcome caller. Do you believe that everything that happens can be explained? Or maybe do you think some experiences are beyond our understanding of how our world works? Stay with me as I pot up some tomatoes and tell you what happened one hot summer night, part one of a three-part story. My night began as a typical night in the summer. No AC, windows open, the city much stiller then compared to now, and it was the dead of night. The story I'm about to tell has stayed with me since it happened when I was about 7 or 8. Funny thing about that night, I still remember it vividly. And the odd part was, I remember every year of my school days and every teacher except second grade, the year this happened. Working on my YouTube channel, A Lifetime of True Paranormal Stories, I have waited to tell this three-part tale because it's so upsetting to me when it happened, yet I can still easily remember it and tell it. I was sound asleep on my small twin bed. I was a tiny thing sleeping in the same room as my older sister, 9 years my senior. She slept on her own twin bed to my left. The beds were separated only by space taken up by a sturdy, heavy dresser. The bedroom was huge. By the way, this is the same room where years later the lantern rocked furiously back and forth. I'll add a link to the ghost lantern video above and in the description below. The night was so hot, I was sicky, there was no blanket or sheet on me. That night quite probably was the last time I slept like that, innocent, on top of the sheet with one pillow and no cover of any kind. I'll tell you what happened. It was so terrifying, but stay to the end to hear what came into my life that night. The first thing I'm aware of, I woken suddenly from a deep sleep, is a dark shadow figure enter my room through the wide open doorway to my right. It was very tall, its head just making it as it ducked in and came into the bedroom from the dark hallway. We always kept our doors open. And shaped like a man, it was blacker than the room itself, which was dark, and it moved down the right side of my small bed very slowly, wasn't in any hurry, and it seemed to be floating, at least 2 or 3 inches off the floor. I could barely see it, but the light from the street light streamed into my room from the left side, allowed me to see this man who suddenly stopped moving and stood at the foot of my bed. I was terrified. I couldn't speak. The thing was standing there. It looked empty. I saw no eyes, no face. It stood there silent, among my familiar belongings, my desk, my dollhouse, and books. It was then that it raised one bony finger, or at least I thought it was a finger. It stuck out of the sleeve of its robe-like jacket, and it touched my right big toe. I felt instantly paralyzed. The stiffness started at my toe and slowly moved up my whole body in a wave. It was then that I couldn't move. I found I couldn't scream. I could only stare at that thing at the bottom of my bed, who touched me and made me stiff on the bed, frozen in place. The dark thing then floated to my left side again, not in any hurry. He moved between the 2 twin beds easily. It was getting closer to me, leaning in toward me and my face. This was just the first part of the night I will never forget. Because of this shadow man, I still never sleep with any part of my naked feet sticking out of my blanket that covers me at night. In fact, I now, since that night, always sleep with a cover, no matter how hot I am, no matter if it's summer or winter. Hit the like button if you can relate to that. My sister slept in the bed next to me and never woke up throughout the whole episode. Was it sleep paralysis? Was this a visit from Shadow Man? What kind of entity, this dark man, did I encounter that night? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've had a similar experience, tell me about it. My next video will explain what happened next. Part 2 will cover an unbelievable encounter that started with a bright blue light to my left and quickly led to seeing 3 small beings. Once a week, Sharp Edges presents inexplicable true stories. Sharp Edges are stories that make us question what we think we see. Do sharp edges exist between what we perceive and reality? Or do those boundaries blur? If you like true paranormal stories as much as I do, subscribe, hit the notification and like button, and share. And until next time, look out for those sharp edges.